All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe. We're the Florida Hockey Bros. Let's start with the game last night, right? The Maple Leafs and the Bruins. I think the bigger question that I have, and I know you have as well, Daryl, is what are the Leafs gonna do, right? So I think we could start there, right? Everybody watched the game. We all kind of have the same opinions. Actually, what you see in social media is kind of the same thing, right? Except everybody's just blaming Marner. But but yeah, man, go ahead. Get us started with the Maple Leafs. I know all year long we started 8 months ago, and all year long we kind of had the same opinion about the Leafs and the expectations, and it kind of just turned out to be exactly what we thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah, I think on defense they were better than expected. I think it's Freeliving ended up adding physical guys that I think showed up the last three games in particular. The first four games for the Leafs were not great in the series; were very inconsistent. But the last three games they really played hard. They were hitting. They were trying to protect the net. The Bruins didn't have a lot of skill, a lot of speed, and I think in game 5 and 6, they were trying to make too many pretty passes along the board, and they were having a hard time getting shots in. I think they did better last night. But to me, the biggest difference is that the Maple Leafs, everybody talks about the scoring. They only scored like 2 goals in like the last 13 out of the last 14 playoff games. They just don't go to the net. I think that's the main. It's as simple as that. They don't create a lot of traffic. They don't create a lot of screens. You don't see a lot of tip goals from the Leafs. I know they're not necessarily built that way, but in the playoffs, that's kind of what you need. You need your best guys to go to the front of the net, and we saw it with the Panthers series against Tampa. A lot of the goals in tight for the Panthers. Like, we don't have a great shooting team, so you go to the front of the net, try to get rebounds, try to get tips. Tampa got a few of those too. So you don't see a lot of that from the Leafs. Just think through the series. There aren't a lot of tips. There aren't a lot of like enclosed rebounds, once in a while, like the Marner goal a few games ago. But I think the main issue for them is that they're just not built. Their system isn't built for them to go to the net. They have Bertuzzi, who's a guy who's willing to do it, but they didn't really use him the right way, in my opinion. It didn't seem to me like they just kind of put him on a line and they kind of let him do his thing. But I saw him more on the boards as the rest of the team than when he played in the Bruins last year, where he was in front of the net the whole time, and that's how he scored against the Panthers in the playoffs. So to me, it's a Marner issue, but it's also a bigger issue with the Leafs in terms of, I think, as a coaching problem, and in getting those guys to play a certain playoff style the whole season, not just in the playoffs. So yeah, man, it's difficult because you have the money, the talent tied up, and they're just not producing. And the truth is, if you just play tight defense, the Leafs are really going to struggle to score goals, and that's happened year over year over year. So they gotta. I don't think it's about blowing it up or whatever. I mean, they have a lot of free agents, so they're gonna have to make a lot of changes. But I think for me, what they should do, this is where I'm going to disagree with some people, because I was thinking about this. The Leafs need to reset. Like, I don't think they need to blow it up. I don't think they need to like just dissolve the core completely or whatever. They need to know that next year it's year one of a new system. So it may not look pretty in the regular season. It may not look pretty in the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe it does look better. I would try to have a balance on defense, maybe replace Brody with another guy who can handle the puck. And then beyond that, the Edmondsons and the Bushkins, like physical guys, I would keep Marner, because Marner has a no-trade clause. It's not going to be easy to trade. Everybody thinks it's just easy to pull that off. It's not easy, even if you tell the guy that you want to move on. And I just don't buy that the front office is going to want to get rid of Marner. Because of his value, because of it. Also because there's a lot of money and a lot of teams can take on that contract without you giving something up. So I think that what I would do is I would give it another year with them, because you have no choice. And Tavares is coming off the books the year after. That's the guy that I want to get off the books. And I would even consider not bringing him back, just because I think you can, he's 65 points this year. He's going to keep going down. He's very old. He doesn't look great in the playoffs, just slow. He has to play the wing right now. I don't even know if it's worth bringing back as a winger unless he's doing it for $3 or $4 million, and I just don't see him doing that. So I would definitely give it another year. But what I would do is I would really build my roster in a way with the coach that is expecting the core, meaning Nylander, Matthews, and Marner, to play a certain style. And from the beginning of the season, getting them to go to the net, getting them to play a certain way that they don't always want to play, and then seeing if they're willing to do that, if they're really willing to do that under the right coach. Because I don't know that Keefe has really ever demanded that. And maybe a coach like Berube, who's going to bench you. Yeah. If Marner doesn't go to the net like he's being asked, so he has a bad game, maybe he gets scratched, for a game or two. And if everybody from Tree Living to the coach can align on that, I would give it a year as a reset. And then the year after, maybe don't sign Marner right away. Give him the first half of the season the same way you do with Nylander and see how he reacts. See if he can buy in. And if he doesn't, then you think about trading him by the deadline and getting some pieces back. At a time where a lot of teams might buy because you only need him for a run or whatever, and then let him go sign somewhere else. But if he shows up and he shows you that he's willing to buy in, maybe you can figure out an extension that isn't ridiculous. And with Tavares coming up, you still have 3 years of Matthews to make it work. That's my opinion. I just don't see a good trade happening right now with Marner anyway. No. And the main thing is the main guys have to buy into a new way of playing. And the coach has to demand forecheck, go to the net. Let's learn how to do that in the regular season, even if it doesn't always look pretty, even if we don't score as many goals, even if we don't win as many games. Play tighter defense, figure out the goaltending, all those pieces that I need to do. So that's what I would try to do for 1 year and reset. And if it doesn't work for the year, then get rid of Marner, do whatever you got to do. And then for year 2, 3, and 4 of the extension for Matthews. Also, the other thing they can do is make him captain. Make Matthews captain now. Take that away from Tavares in his last year. That might actually motivate him a bit. It's going to be a contract year for Tavares. Maybe he comes back and has a strong year. But that's what I think they should do. Ultimately, I think Keefe and Guy Boucher are gone, and that's for sure. That might be it. I don't know.
Yeah. I think to your point, right? You see it with the Oilers where they drive the net. I mean, Zach Hyman, it's front of the net guy. Presence that's just there, and he's scoring all these goals. You can make fun of it all you want, but that's just a strategy that works. Last year Matthew Tkachuk for the Panthers did the same thing. I think all of his goals were within like 9 feet of the actual net. So I think that is something you could do, and I do think in the playoffs anything could work. You just have to know how to adjust and kind of design, a tactics to basically shut down your opponent. I think what happened in the series with the Leafs and the Bruins is just a small sample of, the last 8 years. And maybe it was a little different because some of the new guys definitely bought in, the Bushkin and Edmondson and those guys did well. To your point about Bertuzzi, I think, he has to be on that first power play, right? Otherwise, you kind of lose him. He's not, a playmaker. He's not going to be flashy out there. He's not a Maple Leafs guy based on what the organization and the fans want. So that's interesting to see how that goes. And then to your point about Tavares, man, I feel like Tavares is one of those guys that's like, he always looks like 50 years old, and he kind of plays like it as well. And I would just let him get him off the book, let him walk. Marner, if you can't come to an agreement in the next 2 years or year and a half, I let him walk as well. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to get, 50% return on him. Too many things have to kind of fall into place for that to happen. Salary retention, a long-term deal with that new team that you're trading him into. He has to agree to it. Like, it's just too complicated. It's going to be a huge distraction, I think. So I think I agree with you that next season, the Leafs should just play out the year, see what that new coach brings, and sort of do like the Panthers did with Maurice, where that was kind of a transition year. It just happens that they got hot in the playoffs and went to the finals with like a not so talented team. That was a miracle last season. But now you see kind of the fruits of the labor from everything that Maurice has kind of passed down to the players and how receptive the players are. And I think that's another thing that matters with the Leafs is how receptive is Nylander going to be to a new coach, to a Berube? What's going to happen when he gets benched for a period? Things like that. And I just think that you already have a guy in Nylander that can take plays off, can take games off. It's not going to like bang on the boards. It's not going to back check strong. So you just can't have Marner and Nylander. It's just, it's too many guys of the same type of player. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think once you move on from Keith and Guy Boucher and you kind of work on sort of just bringing just a new presence, man, a new feel to the organization. I do kind of, in a way, I feel for them a little bit because it's tough, man. It's 8 years of expectations. You have one of the best hockey players ever, you know, top 20, top 10, whatever, top five, whatever you want to say. And you're kind of just wasting it, man. Like,
Yeah, but they put their faith in the hands of Shanahan, who's allowed Dubas and Keefe to
yeah,
run the team.
Dubas, I think Dubas ruined that.
And Dubas with the not just the contracts. The contracts are terrible, but it's also the philosophy, right? Like we can win with like the top heavy
Just
forward
offense,
team, which has
yeah.
never been proven.
No.
Not in this kind of construction.
No.
And also the kinds of players you have. That's the other thing you got to be real about. You don't have Crosby and Malkin. You don't have Kucherov and Stamkos. Like
even McDavid and Draisaitl,
right.
Like, they'll run through you.
They're tough, yeah, whatever. Like
big guys.
Yeah, McKinnon, Rantanen. Like you can go down the list of, you know, even if you want to say Kachuk and Barkov, like you got to know what you have, right? What do I have the right balance? Do I have guys who are very different from each other who gives me different things? And I would say that if you let Marner walk and you let Tavares go after next season, that's 22 mil, man. You know what you can do with that? You can get a second line center that's legit and who can win in the playoffs, right? And not just shooting, maybe a guy who can set people up, you know, because Tavares is only shooting, Matthews is only shooting. So you have two top centers on your team who are like shoot first centers. That doesn't go well for your role players always.
True.
Get a top six winger who's willing to fight and score and go to the net, and then get a top four, right-handed defenseman. You can round out your team. And Matthews and Nylander should give you enough top scoring with a cast around them to be able to get you through. You don't need to have like four guys that need to put up, 80 or plus points. That's just not the way that it works in the playoffs. And I know that they look to the West and like, look at the West, like everybody scores 5 goals. And it's like, well, on the one hand, that's happening in the first round. You know what I'm saying? Like Colorado playing wide open hockey, and like a lot of these teams out West, they're not hitting. They're hitting like 30 hits a game, when in the East it's like 60 to 70 hits a game. And so it's a different style, and that's not going to happen in the East. The East is clamped down defense, physical kind of hockey.
Yeah, way more.
Just doesn't play open. If the Leafs were playing on the West, on the Western Conference, and they were playing against those teams, maybe they had more success. Maybe it would be more open. You've seen it against the Oilers. Maybe they would do better against the Oilers.
They had a great season against the West.
Yeah. Because it matches their style a lot better. Yeah. Like if you catch them, but once you actually mix those styles, it is interesting to see what's going to happen if what comes out of the East is Carolina or Panthers, who play more of a forecheck and hard-nosed game, and against those kind of wide open Western teams, and see what style wins. But yeah, I think the Leafs just haven't accepted the fact that the roster construction is wrong, and also your top guys are not willing to fight. I mean, Matthews showed more fight, and I know Nylander scored some goals, but they're not like the kinds of guys who are like running through people. And then your roster around them has to be well constructed. So if you want to keep Domi at 4.5 for 4 or 5 years, he gives you what Nylander gives you in terms of the setup, the skill. He can play center, definitely a great passer. He's going to be liable defensively, but you can replace that with bottom 6 guys who can kill penalties and play really good defense. Maybe find one shutdown forward in your top 6 that you can rely on and kind of balance it out when Domi's out there. But you don't have to have Marner. I know Marner plays well in defense in the regular season, and in the playoffs he does a good job. But is that making a difference? Yeah. Obviously not. It's not. Yeah. He's not Barkov either. You know what I'm saying? He's not those guys either. Matthews plays good defense anyway. So I do think it's a matter of understanding and being real about what you have and what you see from these guys. And you see from Marner, like I was telling you yesterday, like Marner and Domi in this same line looked hilarious on offense. They kept dancing on the boards and on top of the key, and at one point they were next to each other, and there's like nobody in the middle. There's neither of them willing to like go to the middle. You only need one of them. Like you only need a guy around that maybe can set up some people up, but they're just not willing to drive. And yes, they might do it here or there, like Martin did once and score that goal, but that's once in 7 games. You need a person to do that, your player to do that several times a game. Like even if that's not their, with the Panthers, which is our team, like we have a point of reference, Reinhardt goes to the net, Kachuk goes to the net, Bennett can go to the net, Barkov can go to the net, Verhaeghe, can shoot from the outside, but he battles on the boards and goes to the net. Like he's not afraid of contact at all. And even Lundell now, we've seen him go through contact and keep going. So all to say that these guys weren't always that. You can build toward that if you have the right culture.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. That I think that's the point. Like that's what like Toronto needs to understand. Like you can get there. It's not like you have to die on this hill that you kind of just
accept it.
piled on
Yeah.
top of it year after year after year. And I think the biggest mishandling of this whole situation for the Leafs is the fact that no one, Shanahan, Dubas, Keefe, no one like really recognized what the team needed. They thought they could just surround the core four with supplemental players, even though O'Reilly, he's a star.
Yeah.
But I just feel like they just never recognized that. And it tells you all you need to know when Treliving, who I don't think he's a bad GM, I don't think he's amazing either, comes in and right away he knows what the team needs. He gets the right players for it. I think, Ryan Reese was a failure and obviously he got, a defenseman Klimber for the power play. Now they didn't work out.
Yeah.
But Bertuzzi and Doma ended up doing a good job. And I think the trade deadlines acquisitions were actually pretty good. Like we spoke at the beginning of the video, with Bushkin and Emerson, etc. So yeah, man, I it's just one of those things. Like playoff series are tight. All the little details matter. So you need a GM and a coach that are on the same page when it comes to how to improve that part of your game and how to win these, game sevens or whatever. Yes. Is there good luck? Of course. But it'll there's a momentum to it that you just have to know how to get there. And I just think that's been the biggest failure for the Leafs, man.
Yeah. And my biggest indictment of Keefe is that he never built a program. I was telling you yesterday, like his opening for press conference, he used the word program. He said, I want to build a program. Like win or lose in the playoffs, we cannot always control that. Like we can try to win, we can play hard, we can play the right way. But obviously, whether or not you win a cup, there's a lot of things that have to go your way. But what you can do as a team and as a franchise is to build a program. That's what the Bruins have. That's what the Penguins have. That's what a lot of other teams have. You continue to build on that program so you can recycle new players or bring new younger players in. And that same culture can take over. And we've seen that with the Bruins. And that's how a lot of great franchises are run, where we see these long tenures. Like, yeah, you might miss the playoffs here or there. You might need a reset, but you can kind of quickly come back. And the reason is, that program has been built, and that takes the GM, the president, the coaches, the leaders, the captains, who then the new captains that might be coming up. And I think that it's what Keefe hasn't done, and that's what the GM and Duas, I guess you would say, because Treliving is only their year one. He might want to build that, but he kind of wanted to see what he has. He wasn't going to waste all his bullets and fire everybody. So I totally get it. I do think he's probably going to fire Keefe, but I do think obviously Treliving knows that the team needed a lot more grit and that it needs to play a different way. And now this gives him a chance to evaluate and to look at it from like as a cold eye. He's not attached to any of these players because they're not, the players that he signed or whatever or drafted. So yeah, we'll see, man. I think that they need a coach, not just a hard coach. I mean, there are a lot of hard coaches in the NHL and in sports. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, because, Pierre Laviolette's famously known as both a player's coach, but also a really tough coach. But he burns himself out quickly. We see it with Cassidy. We see with Trotz, like they're coaches that burn out quickly because they're very, very intense. Yeah. So there's a lot of them. But you also just, among those coaches, you need somebody to come in with a vision and say, like, here's what we're going to do year one. Here's how we can build on that. Here's what we're going to try to get with these players. And here's how we're going to evaluate. And if it doesn't fit them all, then we're going to make some trades a la Vegas. Like, you got to also be willing to move. Cito, Traven, Huberdeau, and Uyghur was kind of a shocking move. And some of the fan base didn't like it because they were, Huberdeau was like the face of the franchise. But Cito saw it. He gave him a chance. He put the chips in. He saw it and it didn't work. And he said, "Now I'm going to go after Kachuk." It just happened to be available. So yeah, you got to find your people. You got to find your guys. You got to demand more. I also just going to say that to maybe wrap up a bit and move on to a preview of the Panthers and Bruins. But another thing with the Leafs, man, it's like I listened to Tavares after the game yesterday. I listened to Matthews after, and I'm not even. It's not my team, right? Like I'm not judging. I'm judging from the outside. And I do have points of reference of other players who talk after games. And these guys just do not talk the way that they need to talk. Tavares was asked something like, "What would you say made the biggest difference in the series?" And he said something like, "Oh, I don't have anything off the top of my head." And I'm like, "You're the captain. You're the guy who should have, like, can you just say, like, we fucked up in game 4? Like, or, we had to do better the first 4 games, or or even as something as ironic as like, sarcastic as like, we score one fewer, one less goal, or whatever.
Yeah, any
But
answer.
give me something like, give me to say I of the top of my head for nothing. I'm like, do you care? Are you smart? Do you understand the game? Do you understand what was happening? Like some of these guys, Matthews is the same. Like it's a game of inches. He even said that. Like, come on, dude. Like it's been 8 years. Like you're still using the game of inches.
Nylander too. Nylander was saying they played. They tried. They play hard.
They say, oh, we had the same amount of shots. It's like that doesn't in the playoffs. The shots don't matter. Like the Panthers were outshot like through the playoffs last year. It doesn't matter. It doesn't inspire. There's the accountability. Maybe is the word, like accountability. I mean, just show me like.
Just decide.
Say what the fan wants to hear. It's been 8 years. It's not acceptable. We got to figure something out. You don't need to throw people under the bus. You need to throw your friends and your players under the bus. You don't need to say, yeah, we got to trade people. You don't have to say that as a player at all. You can protect the team. You can still say, like, we got to do better. Like, we got, you maybe want to throw the coach in the double. Like, even that, get feisty, like you were telling me, who was it, Fiala? Who was it, the LA Kings that said, like, oh, we've been playing the same system all year. It might be nice to try something different. Yeah, just throw it out there. I mean, Keith might be one anyway. So you just don't see that. Like, I want to see the fire and passion. And if I'm a fan of that team, that is also what I want to see. I want to see the accountability. Like, I am pissed that I'm losing still, after all these years. Like, to say like, oh yeah, it's just tough out there. Like, you gotta be angry. Show me disappointment. Show me that you're like devastated.
Yeah, it's just the same process and results from how many years ago they've lost to the Bruins in the same exact way in 4 of the last like 8-9 years or whatever. Up 3-1, and they end up blowing it in Game 7. So yeah, like I think this is just overdue. And had you like wanted to keep the core together in the last couple of years, then maybe you should have moved on from Keith. And I think the second dude was left, like, make it a transition year. Just let Keith go with him and just, hire whoever's out there, get an interim or whatever, but give the guys a different perspective so they know what to expect. Remember, these guys are young. Matthews, Marner, Nylander is still young, and they haven't really experienced, several coaches or anything like that, different systems or anything like that. It's always been an offensive type of game, kind of what they're known for. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting, whether it works or not. It's just about the process, which is funny. It reminds me that, Bourne from Kipper and Bourne, Borney as they call him, he was saying the other day something about like, he believed that this would be a good process, and he was just looking at the process. And in my mind, I'm like, what process? A 7-year process? Like, what in year 4 are you not like, okay, the process is not working? So what process is he talking about? Like, just score a bunch of goals with the core 4? Because there was no process there. It was just kind of the same thing year in, year out. And yeah, they're a very talented group, which is why they'll take all these series to like Game 7s, and they're not going to get swept or anything like that, because they're very talented. So they hang in there, and Wall did a very good job for them this year. I think Samsonov was decent too, even though, he let in a couple soft ones here and there. And I think the OT goal was very bad on him. But
another thing that they don't want to accept is that when you talk about process and they compare themselves to other teams, you can win with a young roster. First of all, that happened. Like the Bruins won with a very young Marchand.
Yeah, his first year.
They were really young. But in not winning, Maurice took a very young Winnipeg Jets team to a conference finals, which the Leafs haven't touched. He did that with Patrick Laine being 21 and Kyle Connor being like 19, and Shifley was only 24. Like, he had a very young team, and he made that little run to the conference finals. And again, that team kept underachieving, and we see that team, there's some issues mentally with that team. But you can get some experience. You can make a mini run with a young team. So that's one. They should, with the talent that they have on all the years of making the playoffs, they should be winning now. So this excuse of like, maybe that's what Bonnie meant by process, like just kind of expecting these guys to all of a sudden mature, and all of a sudden like
it all comes together.
Trusting the scoring, trusting the offense, and all of a sudden it's going to break through. But the truth is, like you said, it's not 7 years. It's like 1, 2, 3 years. Like, you have to make a run. The other thing is, the other counter argument is, oh, some guys take longer. Like, they use the Caps as an example. They use the Penguins as an example. They use like certain teams, like, guys who won where they were a little bit more mature. But those teams were making runs earlier. The Lightning made a finals or conference finals like way before they started losing, and they were making second round runs and stuff. It wasn't like they were missing playoffs and then they got swept in first round and then magically they won. Just go back and look. The Lightning were getting playoff experience. Look how many playoff games Kucherov had under his belt before they won their first cup, it was like, I think it was like over 60 games. So, or it probably more than that. So these guys were getting a lot of experience. The Penguins the same, the Caps the same. The Caps were making second round runs, that were making deeper runs, but they kept falling short for their talent. And somebody pointed out the other day, they were running up against Crosby in his prime. So at least you're not losing to these Bruins. You're not losing to the Panthers last year, which was not, quite frankly, a deep team at all.
Yeah.
Like that, you're losing to Columbus. You're losing to like that. Montreal, who was not a great team, just played physical. So that is the issue too. You're not losing against like elite teams, like all the teams have. So again, you have all the signs that this doesn't work, and so you should have made changes 2 to 3 years ago. You shouldn't have signed those contracts. And again, the team is making money. I think there's no incentive to really make any drastic changes until you really, really push. I think right now they have to make a bigger move. I think the coach is going to be that move for the coaching staff. Beyond that, they're going to make change. They have a little bit of cap, not so much, but a lot of free agents. But it's going to be expensive to sign free agents. So they're going to replace Brody. They're going to replace Bertuzzi probably. I don't think he'll be back. Maybe they bring back Domi. They bring back either Edmondson or Libushkin. I know they have a couple of role guys on the contract now. Treleaven's trying to do the little tinkering that he should be doing. They have to figure out the wall. You can trust them, so you got to get another goalie. But once you get those new pieces in and you get the fans excited again about the new names and a new coach, people are going to forget about Marner a little bit more. People are, listen, last year after the Panthers lost, everybody was saying blow it up, trade everybody. Back then, everybody was willing to trade everybody. Even Matthew was in part of the conversation, and nothing happened, right? Other than Dubas. So I don't think that we're going to see any crazy movements. I know that team is smart enough to buy themselves time. They're going to fire the coach, get a new coach in that already sets a distraction, and then they are going to sign a couple of new names that can get you excited. Bring back a couple of maybe get Domi at a reasonable price. That already gets the fan base excited. I just hope for y'all's sake that whoever they bring in and whatever program Treleaven really wants to build, that there's an actual method to the madness and there is accountability. Otherwise, this is going to be the result. And even if you make a second round again, it's not easy, man. The playoffs are brutal. Like, I don't know if the Panthers are going to get through the Bruins. They should. They're much better. We can talk about that. But, like, in my heart, there's no guarantee that we could lose in 6 or 7, and I'd be super disappointed.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be, like, super shocked because that's the playoffs. So
that's the playoffs. Then I mean, Swayman is the great goalie. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that next. But just to wrap it up real quick, I mean, if the process was, the Shanna plan, like they call it, whatever, all the cheesy stuff that they have, I think by like year 4 or 5, it was kind of obvious. And yeah, man, it's just a weird thing to waste so many years without any adjustments, any vision of like, hey, we really need to do this or that. There's so many things with this team, like in hindsight, letting Hyman go, and also like there's so many of those stories, like in hindsight, we should have done this, Dubas should have done that, we shouldn't have re-signed this, we shouldn't have extended this guy, we shouldn't have brought in Tavares. Like there's so many of those things that just kind of hurt the team,
Yeah, and I said it in the last video I recorded, like there's a reason O'Reilly didn't resign, there's a reason Shane left, Cherry left. It wasn't just money, and the veteran guys, some of the guys who've won, like they can see how it's run, they can see the leadership, and and if you're going to live in Toronto, if you're going to pay those high taxes, to be honest, like you want to be part of a team that has an actual shot at winning, for real, like a cup, and winning a cup is not magic. It doesn't magically.
Yeah, you create the right culture, players will come, right? When in our wildest dreams did we think? I think when we got Bure, when the Panthers got Pavel Bure back in the day, that was like a shock to me, even though he was kind of already like super injured and all that. But when there was no way that I would have thought that the Panthers, would be able to get Tarasenko, that, a player like that would only want to come here. Pozo wants to come here to see if he can win. Kachuk wanted to come here once, he got the offers. I'm sure there was other teams involved. And it's not just the taxes. Like, sure. But you really think that an NHL player that wants to win a Stanley Cup is going to sign in Florida for 8 years just so they can save tax money? That you're still going to make your money somewhere else. It's a difference of $1 million or $2 million a year when you're making, 9, 8, 10. Sure, it makes a difference to some of you, but I think if you're really invested, you don't care, right? I think the Tampa guys took some pay cuts, right? Bassey could have gotten like 11 mil. He's worth that. So yeah, we can wrap it up there. But yeah, check out that video my brother talked about last week. He spoke about the leagues a little more, and that was before the series ended. So we kind of just putting it all together now, and yeah, we'll talk next week about the leagues, right? I mean, we can talk about the leagues every week.
Yeah, and we'll follow the podcast.
We'll see what happens with Keith on Monday.
Locker room,
all the exit interviews coming up now, and let's see how drastic they'll be.
Yeah, it's our division. I'm fascinated because obviously it's the biggest hockey market, and we're kind of a little bit jealous of the coverage and all that. But beyond that, it's just our division, and we care. Like the same with the Bruins.
Yeah, we follow
ringside. We check. Tampa too with the fans. We kind of know how the fans are with Tampa, and slaying the dragon and all that we did like finally this year.
Yeah, we beat everybody, all the top teams in the division.
Yeah, and it's gonna go back and forth. We're gonna lose some in the years to come and all that.
Yeah, you're gonna have. You're gonna.
But at least we can compete, and I think that's what you also that you want to be able to have a shot for real against it and not be haunted by the like if we lose against Tampa in a couple of years, it's not going to hit as hard as if we have lost again this time. You want to just be able to get over the hump and be able to feel like you're making progress. Maybe the other team isn't as much. And I do think the Bruins have to retool or figure out what to do because they might be on the way down. I think Tampa the same. So the Leafs have an opportunity here. The Panthers have an opportunity. We'll see what other teams come up. But we talk about the Bruins real quick and about the Panthers.
Yeah, let's do a quick
fans out there.
Yeah, let's do a quick preview of the Bruins and Panthers. And I was gonna say one more thing about the Leafs. I forgot. There's the other in hindsight. Look back at the last 10 years. How many division titles do they have? Like it matters. It matters. The Panthers have like 3, which is insane.
The Bruins had that great season.
The Bruins had others, and Tampa has the rest. So out of the top 4 teams in the last 5-6 years or so,
it's consistency, man.
Toronto's just not there, and they just take games off, man. It's just weird. All right, let's get into the Bruins and Panthers, man. I'm only scared as a Panther fan of Swayman and maybe Pasta picking it up. That's really the only 2 guys that I think the Panthers need to kind of game plan for. Pretty sure we're gonna get Olmark tomorrow.
Yeah, Swayman might get a game off just to give him some rest and reset. He might be the guy the rest of the series. Maybe it doesn't matter to me. Honestly, I know that people make a big narrative.
They're both really good.
If we get goalie, you get goalie. Like,
neither one is unbeatable.
Yeah, look, we beat Vasilevsky. It's okay. Like I think at the end of the day, and Bobrovsky could have a terrible series and make it really difficult for us to win. It's kind of a little not random, but there are many factors that go in. To me, the main thing with the Bruins is I agree. I think you have to game plan for Pasternak. We kind of did for Kucherov, and you could see it.
Yeah,
we took the puck away from him a lot. We focused on him a lot and took away the power play.
7 assists, I think. He had a decent series.
He's Kucherov.
But that frustration was visible.
Yeah, he's a playoff player. He's good. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, what you want to see is from the Panthers is the ability to go to the net. You have to be able to screen Swayman or Olmark. You have to be able to, you're not always going to beat them clean. We're not that kind of team anyway. I mean, that's the other good thing. It's like we're not going to, outside of Verhaeghe, and here, maybe Tarasenko here or there, like no one has like an elite shot. Not even Reinhardt, who misses the net a ton. So I think it's more about go to the net, get the rebounds, get the tips, get some power play goals, some key power play goals, which we did against Tampa. Like just try to do that. Yeah. And then clamping down. Don't give up soft goals. The Bruins don't have a lot of firepower, but they can score if you let them. If you open it up, I don't know that we're going to play as tight early on in the series as the Leafs did. So I do think you could see some goals early on in the series and a little bit back and forth. My biggest concern is not even Pasternak or the goalie, because again, I think if the Panthers play their style with the depth that we have, we should be able to win maybe 6. I don't want to say 5 because the Bruins are tough, but my main concern is the physicality. I do think the Bruins are very physical. I think we saw it against the Leafs. I think both teams got out of that kind of hurt. I want to see. I mean, the Bruins passing that took a lot of hits. Marchand got like plastered yesterday.
Got beat up.
Yeah, I mean the hits were. Toronto played pretty physical. So I don't know how healthy the Bruins are, but I am concerned for our team too in terms of getting hit. I saw that against Tampa. We were a lot smarter. We didn't get into as many scrums. That's my dog going crazy. we didn't get into as many scrums. We didn't get into as many fights or whatever.
Oh, that was surprising.
So, I don't know how the Bruins are going to play. We hit each other. Like, we tend to be physical and tight when we play each other. But maybe Kachuk won't go out of his way to antagonize all the time. Maybe Marchand will do the same. Maybe not. Maybe they will go insane from game one.
Yeah.
I just hope that if we're going to get through with the Bruins, that we can come out relatively healthy, because that was issue back there last year, is that it kept piling up. And by the time we got to the finals, we were just not healthy at all. And it took a hit to take everybody out, and Lusty was already out. So, yeah, just to have relative health going deeper into the playoffs. And I think that's kind of the strategy. I think even Maurice is not pushing the team to go all out every game. And I think Bennett's not going to play tomorrow. So
yeah, Bennett's officially out for game one tomorrow.
He'll play in the series, but just probably not game one, maybe not two, depending on how game one goes. But, it's a hand or wrist thing, so it's probably just healing at this point. It's just a matter of probably being pain-free and not being at risk of re-injure. And yeah, for me, I think the Panthers are the deeper team. We're the better team all around. The Bruins are really difficult to score on. They got great goaltending and defense, but Witherspoon, Shattenkirk, Lowry, if he plays, Grisslick, those guys can be had if you go to the net. I think that, the boards, is you're not going to, the way the Leafs played, you're not going to score a ton. And if you let Swayman see the shot, you're not going to score, even Olmark. But if you can create a little bit of chaos in front of the net, a little bit of rebounds, and you can get some of the, some of these defensemen who are either not top defensemen or Lowry is super young. So
yeah,
maybe you can have your way more than with the Panthers D. That's a lot more experience. So that would be my key to the series, is just attack those defensemen. There's one of them in every pair. Yeah. Carlo's good, McAvoy's good, but I think beyond that, Lindholm can turn it over. I think Carlo can turn it over. So the turnovers is the other piece. The forecheck for the Panthers. Like, try to get the Bruins just turn it over a lot in their own. So, man, they did against the Leafs. The Leafs never went to the net with it.
They were very sloppy the last few games, and even the whole series, they were sloppy. They just happened to score on Samsonov. The first, three.
They just don't like it. They don't like as much to flip it out all the time. They like to be able to get out of the zone, and I think that's where
most of the dump and chase just ended up in nothing. And we'll know more next week. Like, once we do the video next week, we'll have a better idea, because every series is completely different, right? The Bruins might just play great, but yeah, I think this series is more about the Panthers. It's more about, can the Panthers, score and do their thing, play their game, and assert themselves, as the series goes on, and
take control of games like we did against Tampa, scored in little bunches.
Yeah, I think even
over a period,
even if both teams play their best, like, the Panthers are going to win in 6 or 7, whatever. It depends. Sometimes you get lucky bounces, and it gets you a game.
And it's how much depends on how much the Bruins have left. And I do worry about game one. I think the Bruins will come in just with the juice and having played that. I know they'll be hurt and tired, but they do come in rhythm. And the Panthers have been off over a week, so I could see a very bad first period for the Panthers in game one.
Yeah,
who knows? We'll see.
Game one is always the game you want to steal when you're away from home, and if you're not the favorite, which is that's the case here. Yeah. Panthers, I think, are minus 160 odds favorite, which is fairly high. I think the Bruins are going to try to steal the game tomorrow night. So that's going to be a big one for the Panthers, and yeah, man, I think I think it'll be good. I think Paul Maurice, shuffled the lines a little bit last game. We can wrap it up there, but I don't know what you think about that. I think he has now Tarasenko, who has been playing with Barkov and Reinhart. He's now on the third line, center by Stenlund and Rodriguez. And I know the Bennett injury has a lot to do with that. Yeah. So I do think once he comes back in, then Lundell will slot back down. Yeah. But we could also see a different second line. And I think my biggest question, and I wonder if it works, and I think if it works, you should keep it, is, that first line with Barkov and Kachuk. They haven't really played together that much. I don't remember when Kachuk arrived. I think they played a couple games here and there together, but that was never the plan. It was kind of to balance out the lines. But
they looked really good against Tampa. And they drove the net. And I think
it helped Barkov more than anything.
I think Maurice might just be also trying to not give Montgomery a familiar look, honestly, in game one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And keep the rhythm and keep the system, and saying, we just worked last game, let's keep it the same. But Maurice can change the lines in a heartbeat, and he knows what the go-to lines are, so I'm not too worried about that. And also with Bennett being out, affords him the opportunity to do it. I guarantee you, when Bennett's back, that Bennett Kachuk Verhage line goes back to being a line, because they were really good early on in the series in the first game, and in the regular season toward the end. And I guess a comment I'll say about Kachuk, man. You know, he had a tough start to the season coming back from injury.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you, if he'd been in Toronto player, he would have gotten murdered the first 6 weeks of the season. He was not scoring. But Maurice said he never cheated the game. He kept at it. He wasn't trying to just put up points. He wasn't trying to cheat to get out of the funk. He was trying to stay with the system. And it paid off, because he and Verhage put up the most points against Tampa. And that's what shows you that the playoff players. Montour frustrated me for so long when he came back from injury. He was not himself. He wasn't sharp. I mean, he was playing well. He put up points and stuff, but you know, he was just not himself. Yeah. And then all of a sudden in the playoffs, he just becomes the guy you expect. Player, yeah. Certain guys just have that. Like, Verhage is like a playoff killer. Certain guys, you know, they just have that in them where like, in the playoffs, they're going to.
I think it's just a compete level. I think some guys are driven by this really matters.
They like the stakes.
This really matters, and you know,
when you expect them to be the most nervous, that's when those guys are like, "This is my time to go out there. I want to go out there and do something." Yeah. And that's pretty cool, man.
That's huge, man. Like playing mistake-free hockey because of that. When you're not nervous, that's huge. You can see it. Like we're Panther fans. We've been watching them since 98, 99, and now, like, you can see it. You can see when they have an off game. It's super clear. When they're nervous, it's just obvious. And that's just big in the playoffs. You can't play nervous. And if you are, you just, you know, hide it and let your instincts kick in. And we just have a lot of good players, man. The Panthers just have a lot of, like, performers that just kind of do it on their own. I don't even think it's coaching. Like, it's just the way they are. I mean,
the coaching is the culture that they've walked into and what's expected of them throughout the regular season, and how the coach trains them and treats them. The coaching staff really is everybody, including Cito, who's around the team. Yeah. And I think then, like they say, you have to pass it off to the players. Like, they have to be the ones who perform. The coach can't force you to play hard unless he's doing it in the regular season. If you're trying to do that in the playoffs, it's too late. To me, if you're trying to bench a guy in the playoffs, like, you've already lost. So you kind of need to be able to do that in the regular season and be able to show and prove to yourself that you can do that. So anyway, I think the Panthers just have to play their game, have to stay healthy, have to not take it easy or not fall asleep. Bob's got to make some key saves. And if you play all things equal, I think we are way deeper than last year, and the Bruins are definitely not as deep as last year. That's just a fact.
Our third and fourth line, especially at home, are going to be able to Maurice is going to be able to match up those lines as he wants. Even our third line now with Tarasenko and Rodriguez can hang with their second. Our top two lines can hang with any lines in the league, I think, as far as, you know, competing. But yeah, man, I mean, every series is different. The playoffs are a different monster. Experience sometimes doesn't matter. You lose, you know, you get unlucky, a couple of bounces, your goalie gets injured. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good series. I almost wish it was the Leafs. I know we both kind of do, just because it would be more interesting and more storylines, and regardless of whether the Panthers
would have been a bit more open and stuff.
Yeah, it would have been more fun, right? It would have been more of offense in the series. But you never know, man. Like, we might be like 6-5 against the Bruins.
Oh, yeah, that could happen. Oh, I don't know.
You never know, man.
This version of the Bruins, I mean, if it does happen, it's because we let it happen. Honestly, I think I just don't see them having the Bruins play that Tampa had. Yeah. And you know, that's the one thing is like it's not apples to apples, but like Tampa is a team that, you know, everybody expected. A lot of pundits expected to be the Panthers or take it deep, and I think you saw that the disparity in talent matters when the team that has the most talent plays hard, and that's the thing that it gives me confidence with the Panthers. Is like, being the favorite, it's not the kind of pressure that the Panthers necessarily shrink under.
Yeah.
They showed against Tampa that like they can actually come and show. And there were moments in those games where Tampa took over and they took the lead and they looked like they might steal a game again. And we beat them. We tied it, beat them in overtime. Then in game 5, you know, that game was tighter than 6-1 till the third period. It was very, very.
Oh, yeah. And the 2 goaltending interferences, they could have easily been tied. They could have gone 2-0.
But we never panic. We always push. We always have our chances. We always, you know, you can count on the Panthers to have their chances to dump it in and chase and get the puck and get a steal and go to the net.
Yeah, man. And to your point about the Leafs and
we can score quick. I mean, that's the thing. The Panthers can put 2 on you real quick.
Yeah, we can come back quick, or just kind of like go into a second period and just take the soul from your body, you know. So, yeah, to your point about the Leafs and like a quick culture shift. I mean, that's the example right there. If the Panthers did it within 3 years, really within two, I think
With a lot of the same players.
last year was a bit of a fluke. I think we got all the lucky bounces last year, but if you can do it within 3 years, why not replicate that in whatever way you want? It doesn't have to be grit, because like my brother just said, um, the Panthers this year, especially in the Tampa series, they toned it back. Kachuk wasn't really being a pest. Kachuk wasn't instigating. Like they were just
playing that game. People. We didn't have Bennett, bro.
the physicality we have, the Panthers have. I don't like saying we, because it's always going to be a comment like, "Well, you play for the Panthers." The physicality the Panthers had in that Tampa series was just war battles and forechecking. You don't have to hit. You don't have to have 500 hits in a series to come out of it victorious. As you can see, the Leafs led every team in hits, right, in the playoffs.
Well, Tampa hit us almost every game.
Tampa was second,
and yet when you watch
Boston,
it didn't look that way. The Panthers hits were a lot more physical. So it's about making it count, right?
Make it count. Forecheck.
Make it count. And I like what the Leafs did. They went after Pastrnak. Yeah. That's smart. Yeah. Like, Edmondson plastering him yesterday, that is a great play. That is how you hit. That's making the most of a hit. So maybe you have 40 of those, right? Like not every hit looks like that, but I'm saying you only have 40 hits, but they really hurt, right? Or they really count, or they lead to us stealing the puck and scoring a goal. That is more important than just putting up 65, 70 hits.
Yeah, you're setting the tone, right? That's really what it's about, and that's what happened that first period yesterday. You could see the Bruins were flying. They were setting the tone. You could still lose the game, of course. It happens. It's the playoffs. All the teams are good, for the most part. But you can see how you can set the tone, and it's up to you. It's up to your coach and your team how you want to do that. If you just want to score, you want to fly out there, or whatever, or you want to be.
Well, a team that plays gritty and it doesn't actually hit a lot is the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes have a great system.
They're heavy. Always on you.
They're suffocating. They don't let you breathe. They don't let you pass. The neutral zone, the offensive zone, they're always pasted on you. There's always a guy on you. There's no space with these guys when they're really on. But if you look at the numbers, they're not a big, heavy team, and they're not a big hitting team. Vegas hasn't hit as much these playoffs, but they're big. You just watch them play. Like when they hit you, it looks nasty, right?
Angelo.
Oh my God. Anyone, like the fourth line, third line, like those guys are all huge. Even Barbashev is a big guy. Like all those guys are big. Mark Stone can hit.
He's a big guy.
He's a brick.
Yeah, I hate that.
I hit him too because
yeah,
exactly. I would take him.
He's like that.
But yeah, so anyway, like it's not about the snot, like the Reeves. You don't need Ryan Reeves for the playoffs. He can't play. Like I know he looked okay against the Bruins, but that's because the Bruins' bottom six is not great. He would have gotten exposed against the Panthers. He would have gotten exposed against Carolina, even the Rangers. Probably. Yeah. He's not the right guy. Better to have Gregor. Better to have Duer. Better to have those guys, and maybe a tougher version of some of those guys. But I'm okay with Ryan Lomberg, get Stenlin, get Oposo, like a guy who's willing to battle Luostarinen, man. I tell you, Luostarinen is a pest on the boards. Yeah. Always fighting, always hitting, always stealing pucks. He doesn't put up a ton of numbers, but I'll take that guy every day on my team for the playoffs as a third liner, middle six guy. Forget it.
Yeah, you have to be able to sign those guys, right? The Leafs did it with McMahon. The Panthers did it with Erod, with Rodriguez for 3 more years. Luostarinen for 3 more years at a low cost, $3 million each, I think, per year. You have to be able to keep those guys around. Lundell's probably going to get a bridge deal now. You have to be able to keep those guys. You have to be able to sign and do kind of small deals if you have to. They did it with Reinhart, right? 3 years, 6.5 or something like that. Man, there's so many examples. Bennett too, Verhaeghe, all those deals were kind of bridge deals to see how it would go. You don't want to commit 8 years to someone that you're really not sure if this is a playoff performer. Man, it's a tricky situation for a lot of teams, but I think in this case for the Panthers, they as long as Zito is at the helm, as we've talked about before, they're gonna be fine. He's gonna restructure, tool, retool. He's going to do whatever, reset. He's going to do whatever it takes to make sure the team is successful. And you definitely want to have a window. Maurice said it, right? They have a 5-year window from when he came in. I'm sure that was a conversation Cito had with him. Hey, you're going to get a 5-year window.
Cito's not emotionally attached to any player. He loves them all. He loves the team and the culture. But he always said it. I'll bring the guys who want to stay here. With Reinhart, Montour, whoever he loses, Verhaeghe, he might trade or lose.
Yeah, I think Barkov and Kachuk are the only guys with that they cannot trade until 2028 for Barkov, I think in 2030 for Kachuk. And then obviously Bob is coming off of the books soon. And then Ekblad is going to come off the books soon if they decide to just let them.
All you need to do, I'm going to wrap it up there, but all you need to see who Cito is. He did not extend Reinhardt. He didn't extend Montour right away because he probably was going to have to overpay. If he wanted overpaying his eyes, maybe not even the league's eyes, maybe they're not asking for crazy money. But he signed Forsling because Forsling signed for a ridiculous amount, low amount for what the value is and his age and the way he plays, how healthy he is. Like that, he signed the guy he knew this is the right contract, the right guy, the right length. These other guys, I'm going to give it time. Let's see if they can find a better contract. Probably Reinhardt hopefully signs back and with a reasonable number. Montour we might lose, but not easy to replace. But with our culture, you can replace him.
I mean, it takes a lot to let those guys walk for free. A Montour and a Reinhardt. Cito could have traded them at the deadline and gotten back a bunch of picks or another player, but you don't want to ruin the year that you're having. And you have to know your team. If you know that your team can compete for a championship, you go for it. And I think that's what happened with like the league, where you're kind of like stuck. Do you get guys? Do you not get guys? Do you go for it this year? Which you feel like you have to, but you really don't have to. Things can still go your way and you can still get to a cup like the Panthers did last year. You don't have to sacrifice anything at the deadline. And I think Cito kind of learned, like you mentioned earlier in the video, he learned with the President's Trophy year with the Panthers 2 years ago. He went all in, didn't work, and he said, okay. And then what did he do last year? Nothing. And this year he got Tarasenko and Okposo, and he kind of just strengthened the depth. And
he's got Maurice when a lot of Panther fans were mocking the hire.
Yeah, loser coach Maurice, right? But
he spent a whole day over Maurice, and then he knew this guy knows what he's doing. So
Maurice is a very smart guy.
He just never had the right team. I've said it before. He just never had the right team to win. He's been deep. He's been to the finals. He's been to conference finals. He's a really smart veteran coach. He's only technically coached 2 teams. I mean, the least was like a little stint, and I've covered that before. That almost doesn't count because he had a very old team that wasn't winning, and he actually overachieved year 1 with them, in my opinion. Go back and look what he had to work with, but he's the right coach. He just never chased the team, right? He's not like Laviolette or some of these other coaches that have been kind of like chasing a bit and trying to find the right team and try to find, try to go on that run. Very, very tried to, went to a team that was already loaded and already a ton of experience and just had to get them to play defense. And then
when he
had that one run and then got fired again, and the Islanders didn't want him after 3 years, the players. So anyway, it's about that. It's our definition. I hope that Treliving doesn't just go after Berube or whatever. It could be him, but I hope that Treliving goes after the guy that he knows that Treliving himself needs to have a vision that he knows can work and really, will work, and then bring the right coach for that, whoever they are. Could be a veteran guy, could be a young guy, could be somebody you're thinking about, could be somebody you're not thinking about. Doesn't have to be just the 1 or 2, doesn't have to be Quemble, doesn't have to be Berube. I mean, it might be them, but so anyway, we'll see, man. It'll be an interesting season. We'll follow the Leafs. I'll do some more videos on the Leafs as we go over there.
I think if something happens with the coach, if Keith gets fired,
and signings and free agency, like I'm fascinated again. They're the competition against the Panthers, so I think I might do some free agent draft and free agency videos because I also want to follow the draft. And we'll do videos next week.
We'll wrap it up there, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. We're doing this for fun. We're brothers. We love hockey. We love the Panthers. This is just fun.
We'll cover a lot of teams. I know somebody put a comment in my last video, like, "What about the Red Wings? Do the Red Wings next?" Like, I'll we'll cover some of these other teams. We just don't have enough time to do a bunch of videos.
But a lot of research. We're busy. We're working. We have families. But we'll do
videos on other teams. We'll try to follow like the drama. We'll try to follow the narratives. We'll try to break down some of the Eastern teams.
Even if the Panthers get eliminated, we'll keep doing weekly videos till the Stanley Cup Finals all the way through, and we'll talk about what we see.
In the off season, we'll do off season talk because
we'll catch up. We'll take a little break in the off season and get back to it, and then next year we'll have much better content.
So we'll try to tag your team if somebody hires a coach or whatever, and we feel like it's important to just break it down.
So
they give you, a fair, like, outsider's perspective.
We're
not haters. I mean, we hate teams when
we're having fun with it, but I don't like trolling. I don't like trolls or whatever. It's funny sometimes when other people do it, but we know it's hard to win in professional sports, any league. We follow all types of sports. So yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, please. And any comments, any questions,
anything, engagement helps.
Criticize, just let us know or give us your point of view on the series that you've watched or what's going to happen with the Bruins.
And we read the comments, even if we don't respond to all of them. We do read.
Yeah, we read everything. Yeah, we read everything, and we were very encouraged with the last video and all the views. Well, I think all the Leafs video that everybody put out got a ton of views.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just the topic. It's the topic. Yeah. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up there, man. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.